Hey, welcome to this edition of Man Cave Technology. We got a fun show planned for you today. Sony has just released the A9. Is that what it's called? I guess they announced it. They haven't released it, but if you're a photographer, it's definitely something to think about, to hear about, to learn about. We also have some other interesting things out of Facebook. They're basically copying Snapchat. We're going to talk about that. And Google Earth is revamped on this edition of the Man Cave Technology Show. All right, so we're kicking things off this week. Got a lot to talk about. I want to welcome everyone sitting around the table, and I want to remind our viewers that we do now have an official website. Dalton, you spent a lot of time working on that, so tell them how they can get to it and what's on there.
All right, so it's at mancavetechnology.com, and we have all of our videos and soon to be a store working on that currently, where you can buy coffee mugs, mouse pads, and so maybe more stuff.
Anything else we come up with.
And yeah, exactly. So, and then maybe some interesting articles will be posted on there too, so make sure to check it out daily if you want.
Yeah, so it's going to be really awesome. Also, make sure that if you're not following us on Facebook, facebook.com/mancave technology, and I'm going to have a video coming out very soon with the Snapchat spectacles, and we'll be on there. And also, we are going to be, I talked about this a little bit in one of my videos. Basically, we're going to be doing a lot more kind of vlog style stuff behind the scenes, so let us know what you think about that. But this show today is dedicated to these topics, so let's kick it off with the big announcement from Sony. And I know Ryan's been reading about this, so Ryan, why don't you just fill us in on what Sony has done? We've always had Nikon, we've always had Canon. Sony started doing things, and it's always sketchy. People are like still skeptical to switch, and this is allegedly something that's really aimed to get a lot of those pro photographers to switch over.
Yeah, so Sony, when they released their mirrorless cameras, there was a lot of flack about different things, but you know, they had crazy low light performance. So everyone started buying like the Sony a7S II. It became this flagship camera for them. They don't really have anything on the Pro line, so this Sony A9 that they released today...
Well, I don't know that I would say they don't have anything in the, quote, Pro line.
For photography.
Well, what do you think the A7R, what is it, the A7R2?
The A7R is too great, but with the new release of the A9, I think that the A7R2 is on the way out.
Yeah, but I think you've got to back that statement up about the A7R2. I mean, how much is a camera? Like a it was like 4,000, 3,500? No, I'm talking about the A7R2.
Oh, yeah, the A7R2
Yeah, I think that is pro level, but okay. So now Sony has finally released a camera that Ryan considers to be pro level.
I do consider the other ones to be pro level for sure, but
your statement says otherwise.
But this A9 camera rivals like what would be the 1DX or the Canon or
so
the
you're saying
Nikon
that
D5.
they're really introducing a big boy.
Yeah, this is the biggest boy that they have, other than their big boy cameras in terms of like broadcasting videos and things like that. So this camera is aimed at sports photographers. It can shoot very fast, 20 frames a second. It can do around 250 raw images continuously. So if you need to get that shot of Kobe Bryant making the dunk, you can definitely do that. The only thing that's bad about it is it may not be, we don't know yet, but it may not be as good low light as like the Sony a7S II.
Right, which is only 12 megapixels, and that's part of what gives it that performance. But it's more for video, because 12 megapixels is really, in my opinion, not very acceptable for photography.
This is a full frame sensor though, so we are getting all that light. It's a very good camera. Obviously, it's basically it's like a big brother, I think, to the A7R II. It is a little bit expensive, but that's because it can do something which is pretty impressive, which is a 1/32,000th of a second shutter speed for 250 consecutive images. So this really is aimed at sports photographers. It's around like 22 megapixels last I read. So we'll see how it goes. It is very expensive, so I don't think that it's going to be something that anyone in this room is going to buy, the next day. But it is for those people who are sitting on the NBA sidelines and they want to switch to Sony. I mean, this is it for them.
Right. Well, and I think that with where it clocks in, even though it's obviously going to be more than the A7R2, it does make those people think, hey, for a little more, I can get into this level.
There's something more, yeah.
And they chose to do something very interesting by including an Ethernet connection on it, like it's 1999.
And we had talked about this a little bit here in the office, but we had thought that possibly they were connecting this Ethernet cable where basically you can live, like say for the Super Bowl, for example, you could connect live to a big server and then basically your images will go straight to the editor.
But is that just what we think, or have we figured that out?
Yeah, we haven't figured that out yet. So, I mean, it just did get released about 8 hours ago.
Or announced.
Yeah, announced. Yeah. So even like The Verge and people like that just don't even fully know yet. The imaging resource didn't know either. Digital camera resource. So we'll see what that's all about. Maybe for pros. I mean, this is the first time an Ethernet port, a full-blown Ethernet port, has been in a camera.
Yeah, but that's also like me saying this is the first time a floppy disk has been in a Nintendo Switch. It's like
True.
but I think it has to be for getting that data out quickly, and that was just maybe the best thing they had going for them. But I still don't know why they didn't just use something else.
Yeah, one thing that I don't understand about this is that to do these high-level speeds, you have to have a UHS 2 card, which is already, if you have a UHS 2 card reader, you're going to be going very fast. I mean, you're going to be going almost as fast as Ethernet. So I don't understand the Ethernet implementation.
I'm going to guess that it really is for those situations where we need to get these images now, and you don't want to stop the photographer, and it's like the Olympics.
You don't have to take any cards out. You just hook up.
Exactly.
Right,
So
but
it'd be a little faster.
Yeah, but in most situations where people are in, we're not needing to literally, like, I took a picture of this wedding, and if it is not on
there,
if it is not on their Facebook page, 3 seconds later in full HD glory, the world's going to come shattering down.
Right.
But it is very interesting what they have done. I'm looking at some pictures of it, but yeah, it just
One
has
really interesting thing, which I need to read a little bit more about this, but the reason why people pick the 5D Mark III for, say, weddings or crucial photography is because it has 2 card slots. So if one of your cards corrupts, you'll still be okay. I haven't read yet if they've confirmed that it has 2 card slots.
I believe that I did see that it definitely does have 2 card slots.
Okay, cool.
The other thing, I say definitely, but I did see earlier an image that I think showed that. The other thing that's interesting is, if you're not super familiar with how these cameras work, in an SLR camera, you look through it and in a mirrored one, and the mirror reflects the image of what you're seeing. So you actually, with your own eye, see through the lens, and you can see if it's sharp and all that. Now, it doesn't reflect what it's actually going to happen when the shutter closes and all of that, but you still can see. Yeah. And one of my gripes with mirrorless cameras has been that instead of looking at the real world, you're looking at this just kind of screen, electronic viewfinder, and in my mind, it is not the same. It has never looked as good as the real world. But you were telling me something interesting about this electronic viewfinder.
So this one Sony's claiming that it's about 2 times as good as the A7R2 or the A7S2, just based off of luminance and how bright the screen can get. So they're saying if you have the camera in front of you and you're looking through the electronic viewfinder, if you pull it away, nothing changes. It's almost as if you're looking through just a straight, clean piece of glass, even though it's an actual, LCD display. So we'll see how it looks. I'd like to get, my hands on one in a store or something and maybe mess with it a little bit. But Donovan, you used to have a mirrorless camera, so what do you think about?
Yeah,
I know that we had conversations back and forth about EVFs.
I started on the mirrorless market, and I didn't know the difference between the EVF and just a traditional viewfinder. And going in, I really enjoyed all the stats that I was able to get. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, I was able to see my level. So I didn't have to rely on trying to match the horizons by my eye in this, box that, it's really hard to match. And so I really liked all the data that I was able to get inside of that viewfinder, but that was a problem, is that like in the sunlight, it was really hard to go in between because, I would be adjusting, real time.
Yeah.
So you almost have to be like a pirate, and get an eye patch or something like that.
Yeah, I think for me at least, the EVF is really hard to just get adjusted to. I had messed with your camera for quite a while, and I still can't get adjusted to it.
Well, and the other thing is that the resolution it's good, but it's not quite there in the electronic viewfinder, at least at that entry point level. Now, Joshua, you do have the A7S2.
Yeah.
How's the electronic viewfinder as far as resolution?
I still feel like it is a great disconnect in photography. I'd much rather pick up my Canon 5D and just see the reality rather than depend on looking at a screen showing me a laggy reality. So that's...
Did you see like lines though? Did you see lines in the images? Were you able to detect that?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty picky, but I don't know that I necessarily saw lines, but I just feel like I'm looking at a screen that's not as
quite
as,
right.
Yeah, like I feel like my iPhone looks better.
And I think like with Canon and Nikon, obviously, well, not so obvious, but I mean they'll probably stick with traditional viewfinders and then just keep implementing better digital SLR technology. But with the mirrorless market, just trying to always vamp up their EVFs, we'll have to see how good they get, because I think the EVFs is in the same, and by EVF I mean electronic viewfinder. They're in the same setup kind of as VR right now, because VR has like that low resolution, but everyone wants it. But I think that we're in the same deal with the Sony. Is if we can increase that resolution, everyone will want it.
Yeah, I have definitely confirmed. I mean, they're claiming that this is like the best EVF ever. They are showing dual card. They are showing that Ethernet port is going to be basically for faster getting your stuff out. They're also claiming that they really have the electronic shutter down to a point where it's great, which is normally not used for photography at this level. So that'll be interesting, to see. But I mean, they're making a lot of claims. Hopefully, it'll be as awesome as it is, and it'll be very interesting to see where this goes and if they're able to move some of those high-end digital SLR folks over to the Sony line.
Yeah.
So very interesting. We will definitely keep looking at it because
Anticipation is high.
Yeah, expectations are high, and we will see what's going to happen with that. So in other news this week, Google Earth got a facelift. Has everyone used Google Earth at one point or the other?
I used to use it in high school.
Yeah, and you download the app. They had apps on the phones. You download the actual application for your computer, and pretty cool. Then other companies started doing some stuff. Apple started doing the full 3D mapping with lasers, and then Google started doing that. But the new Google Earth has launched. It's kind of interesting because it only runs in the Chrome browser or in the browser on an Android device, apparently, at this point.
Oh, wow.
So they're kind of pushing you in those directions. But we looked at it, and at first I kind of thought, well, this doesn't look that good, but then I pulled up Apple stuff and looked at the Golden Gate Bridge and kind of compared, and then I was like, actually, there's a ton more resolution, and this looks really cool.
Yeah, it was a lot brighter. I think we came to our main conclusion was it was a lot brighter and just easier to see.
Right, yeah. It had like better amounts of seeing stuff. Now, they show a video to sell this thing, essentially, their preview, that I do not think, I cannot get those images out of Google Earth. It literally looks like video. Mm-hmm. Maybe I just wasn't in the right place, because, I mean, it looks pretty impressive. Yeah. But this is kind of an interesting thing. Do you guys find a lot of use for having this 3D mapped world and looking at it? I mean, what's the market for this? Obviously, mapping is important, and the satellite imagery is nice. How often do you go, I need to look and see a 3D building?
Not very often, but I do think it's cool. Like their initial video almost looked like they were flying like a drone or a helicopter around, like shooting live video, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. And then you actually see it, and it's not that amazing, but I mean, overall, it's a really cool concept, and I mean, they've been working on it a long time, so I think it's gonna only get better and better because they've invested so much into it. But I don't usually go. I need to go, like, see this cool spot like in the world through Google Earth. But now they've made it so easy that I might do that because I can just go on my browser and check it out.
Yeah, the new thing they were talking about is they have it now where it's like all of these small islands, you can now go and see stuff on those islands, where before, it was like main streets and stuff like that, some side streets they want to do, but now you can go off and do those, and I think more people kind of go look at those type of things. But other than that, I don't think, MapQuest mostly, if I'm going to go find someone, I'm going to use MapQuest. Maybe if I need to, in the dark,
dude,
know what their house looks like.
Still a thing?
Yes.
Does it still exist?
And that's still, okay,
Very much so.
That's better than using my GPS.
Wow. Yeah, I pretty much always use Google Maps. As much of an Apple fan as I am, I feel like Apple never got their map act together. Maybe it's better now.
Not fully, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Google, and I may sound crazy for saying this, but I think that Google Maps will turn into what Google Earth is becoming, in terms of there'll be one, like with Google Maps, you can do satellite imagery, right? And it's just two-dimensional. But I think at some point, everything will be so automated and will be so kind of future-proof at this point. Or not future-proof, I guess that's a wrong concept. But we'll be into the future at that point. And I think that everything, Google Maps will now, when we type maps.google.com, we'll go to the new Google Earth.
Yeah,
and everything will
thing.
be 3D. It'll be rendered 4K. Like everything's just gonna be awesome. You'll be able to see every little detail as if you were there. I mean, you may not even have to go, to Hawaii anymore. You can just look at it.
Right. And I will say that I have used the 3D just to get the perspective of something, but like Street View is probably what I find most useful. There have been times that I'm going on a trip or somewhere and I want to see, okay, this hotel has great ratings. Let's actually look and see if those ratings are real or not by seeing, okay, somebody's getting shot at the front door on Google. Whatever. Let's just not be staying at that hotel. So
one really good use, and this is kind of a hard thing to actually verify with everyone, but essentially there are things that people use Google Earth for every single day, even 6, 7, 8 years ago when it was really crappy, that we just don't even think about. Yeah. Like I don't even know like any examples, but my brother-in-law the other day asked me to pull up Google Earth because he's not too savvy with the computer, and we were looking at hunting grounds and trails, and can I scale that mountain? What's the elevation? What does the altitude look from here? How many deer could I see? Things like that. And it's like, wow, I would never even have thought of that. I haven't used Google Earth for so long. I had to download it to help me do this.
But yeah,
imagine how many different things all over the place that people use this for.
Yeah, if you work in real estate or you just work in any industry where it's like important to see, okay, let's figure out what's around here and what the sight lines are, what things look like.
Completely,
say that you explore. I used to know some guys who did sawmill stuff, and they're always looking for a forest to chop down. You could, just see what things are and see where they're at.
Well, especially, and I don't know if Google has released a public API for this in terms of you can kind of download the data for a certain site. I mean, obviously right now it's massive data to get all the texture and everything for the topographical maps, but Maps has now made it, I think in the last couple of years, where you can make custom maps. So just recently I've seen people who, like we were going on a hike the other day, and I see people who have made their own little custom map and their own custom route. Now imagine that in Google Earth, making custom maps and custom routes in Google Earth for hiking trails, for just everything. I mean, this thing's going to blow up, and we just don't even know it's going to happen.
Well, that's really where it's there, where you're getting your job site surveying, and not that you can actually survey with Google Earth, I don't think, but you can get that nice
it's the premium,
the premium option. You're able to scout out those locations without actually going to the person's website, and you get just a kind of a uniform experience, I think.
Yeah. Right. And then you fly your drone out there, and then you really see what's going on.
There you go. And speaking of that, there are a lot of apps now that you can download on your phone, send your drone up, and it will basically do a 3D Earth model of your house or wherever you're at. I've read a lot of problems. People have had flyaways where the drone flies away, and the DJI says, "Sorry, you weren't using the DJI Go 4 app." Yes. So you were some of them don't give you control. Like they just do their own thing 100%.
Yeah, like via GPS or something.
Yeah, but it is really cool. I think there's obviously, we're just at the beginning of 3D mapping. I remember a long time ago when I went on a field trip to a university, and they were doing what they called remote sensing, and it was this really bizarre thing where they used satellite imagery to remote sense what was on the earth and like show a farm or something, and the images were grainy. They were having to use like silicon graphics computers that were $50,000 each, and so now we just have this stuff in the palm of our hand. It's no big deal. Yeah, which is really cool. So speaking of all of that, Facebook also had a big day, and I mean no disrespect to Mark Zuckerberg, but I feel like somebody else should get up there and talk because he is not that smooth. I mean,
it's very much like this is what we're doing now, and then we're going to do this.
He's no Steve Jobs. That's for sure.
He is no Steve Jobs.
And I think off of the Steve Jobs, which I was also going to bring up because obviously he's a very good speaker. But like when Steve Jobs spoke, he still actually, and I don't know if this is just Apple's marketing strategy or not, but they actually had like 6 other people come up on the stage and talk about each thing. Whereas like I didn't watch the entire thing, but I feel like Mark Zuckerberg stays up there for an hour.
Yeah, and they did have other people come up, but he probably should only be up there for like a minute.
Yeah, for like a minute and say, hey, thanks for coming. I'm going to have these 20 people that are a lot smarter than me tell you what's going on.
But I actually think it's maybe the reverse. Steve Jobs, even though everyone gives him credit for everything, Wozniak really did this. Steve was a talker and a pusher and a promoter, and so he did all that. So he was great at presenting, and then the really smart people come out and show, here's how we did this or did that. And I think in this case, you got to remember Zuckerberg was just a guy who loved coding, and so he coded Facebook and made Facebook, and now all of a sudden he's thrown into the public spotlight as this guy. I think that's why he comes out awkward sometimes, because I heard him say something like, we believe the future of phones, or the future of the camera, is augmented reality, and then he said, we believe the future of the phone, and then people clapped, and I'm like, he said it twice because it probably said like applaud, and he was like thinking nobody's clapped, and then they clap, and he's like being awkward. But anyways, this isn't about Mark Zuckerberg's talking.
And comparing like the Apple startup to Facebook, you got to realize that Zuckerberg did it by himself. He was the Wozniak. You know what I mean? So Wozniak never got up there and talked like Steve did.
Right.
But he's kind of forced to
he didn't have a partner to get up there and jib jab out. Well, I think he did have an alleged partner, but that you can watch the social network. So
there you go.
Anyway, so Facebook made these announcements. Some of it, first off, all Facebook seems to be doing, in my opinion, lately is just copying Snapchat.
Okay, that's what I saw when I saw the video. It was like, you can watch your friends do these filters, and I'm like, you mean Snapchat filters?
Right.
Like, that's all it is?
It's been out for like 2 years.
And maybe I know I'm getting older, and you guys know I've had some trouble like with Snapchat, because I'm like, this is weird.
That's rough.
But literally, somehow my Facebook the other day got into the Snapchat mode, and I'm like, I just want to get out of this. And it's like you know, I just got out of the shower or whatever. I'm not wanting to send photos.
Wow.
I'm just wanting to find, and I finally just had to literally close the app because I just could not find a way to just get back to Facebook as I know, and I felt like I was in Snapchat, and I thought, this is weird.
It's surprising to me how blatant they are at stealing things. Like if you look at Instagram, they didn't even call it something else. Like, you have an Instagram story. Like, it's like, come on. They even tried to buy Snapchat, and then after that, they're like, okay, we're just gonna release all your features.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, when you buy Instagram, I mean, you can do what you want.
It's just,
but
it's just
it's like that with
surprising.
Instagram now too, because like what Josh was saying, I was like scrolling through people's stuff, and then my thumb accidentally goes sideways, and it goes to a picture, you know, taking a picture of me. I'm like lying in bed. I'm like, I don't want a picture of me. Like, I'm trying to like swipe back, and
It's black.
yeah. It's very weird. But basically, they're copying Snapchat, and it does look like they're trying to take this whole augmented reality to the next level. It's almost like he said, we know where we want augmented reality. You want to wear glasses and see a chess and play it, but we're not there, so we're just going to use the phones, and we're just going to basically copy Snapchat. They do have like an augmented reality game, I guess, that's going to come out, once again, with the phone. But
just marketing.
it's just kind of in the middle level, and I don't know how successful Facebook is going to be if all they're doing is copying versus innovating. I read an article where they basically said Facebook is going to become like the new Microsoft. However, the thing that me and Ryan were talking about earlier, like Snapchat has a purpose, and now they're trying to expand to become more of a community, as where Facebook does have that community. So the question is, can they bring some of these features in and bring young people back?
Bigger,
right? Or as long as grandma and grandpa and relatives are on there, are people just is it just an abandoned platform?
It's definitely having that wide base of people, and then just acquiring all these different niches that you can just pick up and keep adding to your
right.
to your
And nobody
portfolio.
cares if you stole it if you can do it successfully. I mean, look at Microsoft, but. But yeah, one thing for me, I don't know if this is a millennial thing, if this is just a me thing, I have no idea. But I am tired of companies trying to innovate stuff and just make, like you were saying with like Instagram, just make it easy. Stop putting all these buttons. No one's a super user. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg may be a super user. Steve Jobs may have been a super user. Nobody in the real life is a super user. They go to the grocery store, they come home, they check pictures on Instagram. They don't need 10 settings to do, like how they're doing like all these different buttons, or now you're in the Snapchat mode of Facebook. Like, just get rid of all that crap. Just do something.
But
then do something like Google is trying to do with Google Earth, but even say twice as epic, and then make something groundbreaking that everyone does use all the time. You know what I mean? Like, stop like taking Messenger and putting in another app and making all these finagles. You know what I mean? I get all of it, but at the same time, it's just make it simple, because that's what people use.
Right, and it is interesting. I mean, even if you look at their Messenger app, being separate, which I still think is really dumb because you're not going to be using Messenger unless you use Facebook, and so why not just combine them? But it's almost like that was their way to try to make their own iMessage, except they're not Apple, and it's just not going to turn out the same way. But anyways, it's kind of interesting, but we'll keep an eye on it, and we will see what happens, and who knows, maybe they'll... I don't even know. I have no more comments other than that. I think they should get someone else to speak for Mark Zuckerberg.
Sony with the A9 launch is going to buy Snapchat and then
there
rival Facebook.
That's right. And you will have teenagers.
It'll be a legitimate Snapchat camera.
Here's what I'll put out. In the future, you will have 6th graders who are begging mom and dad for a $5,000 Sony camera that's connected to Snapchat so that they can and
HD pictures.
And because things are coming back, we'll go back to the filters that you actually need glass filters to put on the cameras. We're a slippery slope. We're out of here. Thank you for watching this edition of Man Cave Technology. Check out our website, mancavetechnology.com, and make sure to like our Facebook page and continue to subscribe to this YouTube channel for more videos.